I want to give a special shout out to my patrons, to my Bibliosprand, Bibliosworn, and Bibliomancers. Thank you so much for supporting my hobby and passion even more. It means a lot to me. Hi everyone, Patek here. For today's video, this will be the second episode of SFF Spotlight, or Science Fiction and Fantasy Spotlight. So, for those of you who are new to this, Science Fiction and Fantasy Spotlight is where I will spotlight new cover reveal, new special edition, or new book release in the fantasy and sci-fi genre. After hearing everyone's input in the first episode, I have decided to do this kind of video once every 2 weeks. And I will see how it goes. For today's video, there are 20 news. Yeah, so within the past 2 weeks, I found 20 noteworthy news in the science fiction and fantasy genre. That's a lot, just within 2 weeks. Imagine if I had waited a month. So let's get started. And the first news will be about Lost Metal. Lost Metal is the fourth and final book in Mistborn Era 2 by Brandon Sanderson. And recently, Waterstones just revealed the UK cover art to the Lost Metal. And I think it looks incredible. Although I own the US edition for Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere books, I think for particularly Mistborn, I think the UK edition is far superior, and this one with the cover art done by Sam Green, just like always, is another proof because this is just fantastic. I love the cover art so much. I think this is the best cover art in the Mistborn saga so far. For those of you who have read Mistborn Era 2, I think you will notice the amazing details contained in this artwork. Wax and Wayne looks so good in the cover art, and then there's also the sword. You will know the meaning if you have read the books, and also Harmony symbol on the back. Plus, it is on brand with the previous cover art of the series. This is my most anticipated book of the year, and I am right now in the middle of rereading through the entire series together with my patrons on my Discord server, and it's been going really fun. The second news will be about the Blade itself Curious King edition. I talk about this in more detail. I talk about the edition in more details in my first episode of SFF Spotlight, but basically the pre-order date has been rescheduled because on Monday, last Monday, due to overwhelming demand, Curious King website crashed. So yeah, that is crazy. Because of this, Curious King has decided to move the pre-order date to the 22nd of May, and this is what they have to say. After what was a frustrating night with my servers going down, nobody was able to secure a copy of the Blade itself. I am now working with a very distinguished web professional who is now ensuring the website and hosting is up to the task for another overwhelming response to this book. And the pre-order date will now go live on Sunday, May 22nd at 8 p.m. BST. So that's tomorrow. If you're watching this tomorrow, I think the pre-order will be up now. I hope to see you all there again, and I cannot apologize enough for Monday's false start. I will also be doing a giveaway of a numbered edition for those who try to access the site on Monday. Thank you everyone for being so understanding. It's been heartwarming, and I hope it's worth the wait. I predict that this will sell out very quickly, so if you're looking to get yourself a copy of the Blade itself with the cover art and interior artworks done by Tommy Arnold, this is your chance. Mark your date, because yeah, I think this edition will be amazing. And speaking of Tommy Arnold, the next news is about Sabriel by Garth's Daphne Press edition. So Daphne Press is a specialty press by Illumicrate, and their first book will be Sabriel. And this is the sale date announcement. The sale will now take place on Monday, 30th May at 4 p.m. BST. This will be a general sale. There will be no pre-sale for active subscribers. There will be a guide for best practices on our website that we recommend you refer to avoid any frustration or disappointment on the day of the sale, should the book sell quickly. The book is bound with an all-new exclusive wraparound cover illustrated by the talented Tommy Arnold. It includes a foreword from the author and 25th anniversary bonus content, including the short story One Wiverly Summer. Each book is housed in a leather textured slipcase with a gold foil charter symbol on both sides, and signed on a full color page featuring the original Sabriel cover art by Leo and Diane Dillon. It has a ribbon marker and colored end papers featuring Sabriel's bells art by Gavin Rees. So I haven't read Sabriel or anything by Garth really, and I've heard a lot of great things about this particular series, so if you're a fan of this series, watch out for this one. Next, The Broken Binding just revealed their edition for the Winnowing Flame Trilogy by Jen Williams, and it looks spectacular. This is a part of their monthly subscription, and this will go from the month of June until the month of August, one book per month. Jen Williams deserved this edition so much. I can't believe that it took this long for this trilogy to actually get a hardcover. It's insane. The Winnowing Flame Trilogy is one of the best trilogy in my opinion, and it is very underhyped. Vintage, Tourmaline, and Noon is a character that I will always remember, and I think this trilogy is just so inventive and refreshing to read. It has a lot of memorable characters, and the aerial battles are so good. And there's also a lot of great animal companions in this trilogy. So yeah, if you haven't read the Winnowing Flame Trilogy, I highly recommend it, and if you have read it, or maybe you haven't but you want to get this special edition. So yeah, make sure to check out the Broken Binding website, and maybe if their subscriptions have rooms, you can get it. But anyway, I think this edition looks amazing, and so I just have to say that well done to Headline and also the Broken Binding. The next news is that there is another new cover art for the Lord of the Rings and also Silmarillion. And yeah, I feel mixed about this one because the new cover art for the Lord of the Rings looks, yeah, not good. This one is not good. I'm not a fan of this cover art because, well, this is just their poster. Horrible sticker aside, these are just the posters used for promoting the TV show adaptations. So yeah, I am not a fan of this one. So I will keep my previous edition. Thank you. This one I think belongs in Mordor. However, the Silmarillion edition, the new cover art looks amazing, and this one belongs in Baxen. It has a stunning spray edges. I think it matched their previous edition of The Lord of the Rings. And this edition will be illustrated in full color by Tolkien himself for the first time. Next, we have the cover reveals for both the US and UK edition for The Heart of the Sun Warrior by Su Lin Tan. This is a sequel to The Daughter of the Moon Goddess, a book that I haven't read, but I think this is a fantasy series about Chinese mythology, immortality, and love. I think the US cover art and the UK edition, both of them looks amazing. The US cover art is done by Kuri Huang, and the UK cover art is done by Jason Chuang. Which one do you think looks better? I think I have to choose, and this is a hard choice by the way, I think I have to choose the US edition for this one. For the next news, Thor Books and also R.R. Virdi just announced that there is a pre-order bonus for the first binding. Now, I have talked about the first binding on this channel plenty of times recently because I just recently reviewed this book and I really love the first binding. It is one of the best books of the year so far. And if you submit the receipt for the hardcover, ebook, and also audiobook for the first binding, you will get a bonus of the short story from the world of the Tales of Tremaine titled The Path to Kahine. Virdi has announced that this short story will actually introduce his own Cosmere universe for his own books. Unfortunately, if I'm not mistaken, this pre-order bonus is exclusive for US and Canada residents. Hopefully there will be one for international readers as well. Speaking of pre-order bonus, the next news is another pre-order bonus, and this one is for Babel by Rebecca Kuang. So this is what Rebecca has to say regarding the pre-order bonus. We're kicking off the Babel indie pre-order campaign today. As long as supplies last, you can pre-order Babel from Harvard Bookstore in Cambridge or Mysterious Galaxy Bookstore in San Diego to receive free character art cards and a signed book or bookplate. I love indie bookstores, and I love these two stores especially. The artwork, as usual, is by the inimitable Kimberly MacDonald. I have adored her character work on the Babel cohort and hope to keep working with her for many character concepts to come. Some answers to frequently asked questions. Mysterious Galaxy does ship internationally unless the Postal Service has specific exceptions in place. Harvard Bookstore ships inside the US only. Currently, there are no plans to make these bookmarks available anywhere else, so this campaign will be your only chance to get them. Books from Harvard Bookstore will be signed. They're my local bookstores, and orders from Mysterious Galaxy will come with a signed bookplate. Supplies are limited and likely won't be restocked. And finally, we will be announcing one more digital swag campaign later this summer for international reader or readers who prefer ebooks and audiobooks. It rhymes with Smate Keeper. If you order for this campaign, your order will be eligible for the digital swag campaign as well. Love, Rebecca. So I'm a fan of the Poppy War Trilogy, and I'm going to read and review Babel next week. So if you're a fan of the Poppy War Trilogy, or maybe you have read Babel, and you love Babel as well, then yeah, consider pre-ordering this one. Next, we have an announcement from Orbit Books, and this is for the Soulfire Saga by Matthew Ward, author of the Legacy Trilogy. That start with Legacy of Ash, Legacy of Steel, and Legacy of Light, which I haven't read. I've read only Legacy of Ash and I enjoyed it, but somehow I still haven't continued to reading the remaining two books in the trilogy, unfortunately. But in the press release, it is stated that Ward's upcoming Soulfire Saga introduced us to a brand new world ruled by an immortal king, where souls feel magic and a supernatural mist known as the Veil threatens to engulf the land. Here's a little taste of what to expect. These are dark times for the kingdom of Kalat. As the magical mist of the Veil devour the land, the populace struggles beneath the rule of ruthless noble houses and their uncaring immortal king. Kat doesn't care about any of that. A talented thief, she's pursuing one big score that will settle the debt that destroyed her family. No easy feat in a realm where indentured spirits hold vigil over every vault and treasure room. However, Kat has a unique gift. She can speak to those spirits and even command them. She will need every advantage she can get. Kat's not a hero, she just wants to be free, to have her old life back. But as a rebellion rekindles and the war for Kalat's future begins, everyone, Kat included, will have to pick a side. The first book in the Soulfire Saga Saga will be published in August 2023, so next year. And now we move on to self-published fantasy spotlight, and first is about Wight Traveler's Gate Trilogy, which is his first trilogy, and it is getting a new cover art done by Ari Ibarra. Although I am a huge fan of his Cradle series, I haven't actually read this one, and this announcement is basically an audiobook surprise. Travis Baldry has re-recorded the entire trilogy, and the audiobook for this trilogy can be purchased exclusively on Audible starting from the 1st of June. So yeah, that's very soon. I think the new cover art looks amazing. Ari Ibarra is a great artist, and yeah, I think Wight, as you can probably guess from Cradle already, is a great author. Next, we have the cover reveal for the Third Kingdom by Tao Wong. This, just like Cradle, is a progression fantasy and also Xianxia series. This is the 7th book in the Thousand Li series, and this cover art is done by Felipe de Barros. I haven't started reading this series at all, but this series has so often been recommended for fans who like Cradle. And just like Cradle, if I'm not mistaken, I think this one will be 12 books long. So yeah, we are more than halfway through the entire series. The next news is from Ben Galley about his Chasing Graves trilogy, which is getting a hardback edition. I haven't read the Chasing Graves trilogy, but this is an Egyptian-inspired dark fantasy series, and I've heard a lot of great things about it. My co-blogger Haifa has actually read the first 2 books, and she really enjoyed it. And now the trilogy will finally be getting a hardcover treatment, and it looks amazing. The cover art for the first 2 books is done by Chris Colt, and the cover art for the 3rd book is done by Felix Ortiz. All 3 of them are designed by Sean T. King. Ben Galley's books are pretty much still on my TBR pile, but I will definitely get to his books one day because yeah, I've heard a lot of great things about his books. So many great things. Next, we have the cover reveal for Lightblade by Zamil Akhtar. This one looks so good, and the cover art is done by Miblard or Myblard, but basically it's MIBL art. I haven't read this one, but this is the premise. In 3 days, Josh will slay the God Emperor or die trying. But first, he must train his Lightblade skills while asleep. Each hour of sleep equals a day in a lucid dream. Plenty of time to master the essential Lightblade techniques and hopefully get skilled enough to defeat the monster who enslaved him and beheaded his parents and sister. When Josh awakens to learn that the God Emperor has surrendered to an even crueler foe, a mysterious Lightblade master who can summon divine dragons to burn whole cities, he will face a trial by fire against forces far more frightening than he could ever dream. That is, if he's not still in one. This one sounds so good, and honestly, his previous books, I think Gunmetal Gods, sounds super awesome too. So yeah, if you're interested in this one, make sure to check it out. The next 2 news are both cover reveals that, well, I did the cover reveal for these 2 books. The first one is Starbinder by Mark Timmony. This is the prequel novella to his debut novel, Blood of the Spear, which again, I still have to read too. But yeah, I'm looking forward to reading this one someday. This is the prequel novella to Blood of the Spear. The cover art is done by Felix Ortiz, just like Blood of the Spear, and the cover design is again by Sean T. King. I think I have mentioned these two guys' names on this channel so many times because so many self-published fantasy actually use these two as their cover artist and their cover designer. And it is very understandable because both Felix Ortiz and Sean are really good at what they do. But the next cover art is for Blood of the Outcasts by Daniel Smith. This one doesn't use Felix Ortiz as the cover artist. This one is done by Martin Motet, and this is a Japanese-inspired fantasy, and this cover reveal is to replace the author's previous cover. The author told me that he knows the importance of cover art and he wants to make sure that this cover art can do justice to his books. And personally speaking, I think the new cover art looks so much better than the previous cover art. And finally, for the last 5 news on this channel, this will be about noteworthy book release. So I will be telling you 5 noteworthy book release, even though I haven't read them yet, but I think these are worth checking out and they are out now. For the first one, we have A Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah, and this one is out now in both US and UK. This one is a debut novel from Orbit Books, and it is supposedly inspired by stories from 1001 Nights. This book weaves together the gripping tale of a legendary smuggler, a cowardly prince, and a dangerous quest across the desert to find a legendary magical lamp. I haven't read this one, but my friend Niels from Fantasy Hive has said so many great things about A Stardust Thief. I think this one is actually her favorite book of the year so far. And next we have The Exile by Ryan Cahill, which is being released today. Yeah, so it is out now. This is a novella in the Bound and the Broken series, and it is 200 pages long. Even though it is a novella, I think this is technically a short novel. And Ryan Cahill has mentioned that he will price this novella at $0.99. So yeah, it is cheap. It's $1. And so far, The Exile has 47 ratings and 46 reviews on Goodreads. All of them are 5 stars. That is truly impressive, and I'm not surprised about this because I've read The Fall and also Blood and Fire by Ryan Cahill. I think The Fall is a superior book. Now, I haven't read Of Darkness and Light, even though I have mentioned that I'm going to read that book last month. but I still haven't got the time, but I will make sure to read Of Darkness and Light within next month, in the month of June. And after that, I will read The Exile. And this is the short premise for The Exile. Do not hesitate, do not contemplate mercy. The Lothian Empire took everything from Dane, his family, his home, his people. He will carve a bloody path through Etheria. He will have his vengeance by blade and by blood. This is his story, the story of the Exile. And Ryan Cahill himself said this: each part of the Exile is set at a different point in Dane Alterer's life before his appearance in Of Darkness and Light, each exploring pivotal moments that crafted who he is. Dane's exploits pre-Of Darkness and Light could take up an entire trilogy in and of themselves, but by making this a novella, I am able to explore the truly big moments for him, providing you with some extra lore without eating into the time of the main series. And this is a companion novella, not a standalone novella. Previous books in the series should be read first. But from hearing about this, I am so looking forward to finding out about this Dane. Next book release that's worth checking out is The Umbral Storm by Alec Hutson. This is the first book in the Sharded View series. I talk about this book, the cover reveal in more details in my first episode of SFF Spotlight. But to put it simply, this is Alec Hutson's newest book. It's a progression epic fantasy, and the author described it as Cradle by Will Wight meets Song of Ice and Fire by J.R.R. Martin. And considering how much I enjoyed reading his Raveling trilogy, I have no doubt that I will love reading Umbral Storm. And for those of you who are curious, this is the premise. 1,000 years ago, the heart of the world was shattered, its fragments scattered across the land. In the chaos that followed, martial orders arose to gather the shards, for it was found that great powers were granted when these pieces were bonded to the flesh of the chosen. These are the Sharded Few, warriors imbued with the divine energies that once coursed through the heart, driven to absorb enough fragments to claim godhood. Therein has known nothing in his life except suffering. Orphaned at the edge of the realms, indentured to a cruel slaver, he has little hope of escaping his circumstances. But elsewhere, ancient powers are stirring. New alliance threatens the peace of the old order, and against all odds, Darren will find himself a player in a game unlike anything he could have imagined. My TBR pile is incredibly packed, but I will do my best to actually fit this book into my reading within this year. And next, another book release I think might be worth checking out is A King's Radiance by Luke Schultz. This is the first book in the Bonds of Kin series, and the author actually told me that One Piece is one of the main inspiration behind this debut. And hearing that alone is enough for me to actually give this book a try. I don't think I've heard many fantasy books that's inspired by One Piece, and One Piece is one of the greatest things, not just manga series. It is one of the greatest stories in our world, in my opinion. And this is the official premise. The sun's light shines bright over the land of Zapur, and only a select few can harness its power. But all power comes with a cost, and the world is not kind to those who refuse to pay it. Riceglaive, a strong shine wielder, was born into royalty, though even royals have to answer to someone. When the King Radiant sends one of his precious underlings to the Kingdom of Trust, Race quickly learns who holds the true power in the realm. After his sister is taken prisoner simply for having the violet eyes of a mystic, Rice swears vengeance. But when an unwilling father stands in his way, Rice promises to take revenge into his own hands. Dazen Glaive remains heir to the throne of Thros, and a sworn defender of the King Radiant, but he has not forgotten what happened to his sister, and will not forgive their cruelty. Forced to be a centerpiece of her master's twisted human art gallery, Isha remains a prisoner, though she has not lost hope. Finding friends among fellow captives, she begins to formulate a plan for escape, though what she discovers has a much more sinister bearing on the fate of old Zapur. I am still not sure when I will get to A King's Radiance, but I am definitely keeping this one on my TBR pile. And finally, the last news for this episode is that An End to Sorrow by Michael R. Fletcher is out now. This is the third book, the final book in the Obsidian Path trilogy, a grimdark fantasy series that I really enjoyed. I've read only the first book, Blackstone Heart, and I think Blackstone Heart is as good as Beyond Redemption by Michael Fletcher as well. Now, I haven't been reading a lot of grimdark fantasy novels lately, but when I'm in the right mood for grimdark fantasy novels, I will definitely reread a Blackstone Heart and read through the entire trilogy. So yeah, that's it for today's episode of SFF Spotlight. Let me know which news has captured your interest, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts on them. The next episode of SFF Spotlight will be in June, and until then, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for your support. Bye bye.